incentive that goes with this tax payment? What should also go with what should be the incentive that should accompany these taxes that are being brought to bear upon artisans and those in the informal sector?
That's exactly what I'm saying. Aside the line system is giving incentives. So we should make sure. So if a mason is, let's say, not able to perform his duties owing to something, let's say an incapacitation, illness, or something, if there is a policy that states that that person can take his tax returns to the tax office, and government at the end of every month will give him, let's say, even 200 Ghana a month, based on how much taxes he has contributed, I think that will go a long way to encourage people to pay their taxes. And then also tax officers going around from time to time to make sure that there should be a receipt system where receipts are issued for services in the informal sector, for barbers, for fashion designers, and all these people. If somebody comes for your service, there should be a receipt system with which we are able to track how much revenues you have generated over a period of time. And with the random officers going around, if you refuse to issue a receipt to an officer who comes for your service, then a penalty is imposed on you. If we're able to adapt that system from Europe, I think it will go a long way to help to encourage our artisans to pay taxes.
Habib.
Some licensing incentives and then applying sanctions for people who go contrary to laid down regulations.
Wow, that's very interesting. Okay, we have on the line our colleague Abdul Rahman Sani in Parliament at the moment. We're waiting to get a feed from them. I think Sani is ready to give us an update about what is happening in Parliament at the moment. Sani? Hello? Sani? Hello? We come to Habib. Habib, Habib, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Great. Now, Habib, the Vice President launched the Ghana.gov platform or website or portal to help in the digitization drive. How is it going to help? Because according to him, we're losing about 3 billion Ghana cedis annually through this interface of payment. How is it going to impact on revenue generation by close of the year?
Yes, I anticipate a very huge revenue increases to government because, you know, over the years, what we have done has only been that we have MDAs operating different accounts. So you can have one ministry or one agency having about 10 different accounts with different banks, and so they route different revenue inflows to these accounts. So at the end of the day, sometimes they move on, those signatories or those who are in charge of those ministries or agencies, they move on. Some of those accounts are just left without anybody monitoring. And that is why government brought in a single treasury account to ensure that all the ministries and agencies have one single account at the Bank of Ghana where they push all their revenues. So that was the first leg. The second leg is that is what the Vice President just launched recently. And the reason is that sometimes you go and make those payments and it doesn't get to where it's supposed to get. I mean, it doesn't come to the government directly. And I'll just give you one example. I went to do a registration for my birth certificate for my daughter. And I was asked to pay 80 cedis in one of the small clinics. So after I finished paying the 80 cedis, then I asked for the receipt. Then the gentleman told me that he doesn't have a receipt. And I said, but how? Why are you not having a receipt? He said, oh, it's not issuing receipt. I said, but how are you supposed to account to the people at your office? Mm-hmm. He said, oh, that's why when they go, they'll just do manual accounting. I said, but how is that possible? How am I sure that those money will actually get to the office? And I said, and that's what they have been doing. And so that means that we are having serious leakages in several MDAs. And therefore, the reason for this one is that now when payments are made, they are made and transmitted in real time. So in this case, with the launch of this portal, if I'm going to make any payment for the best certificate for my bill, I go and they give me whichever means or whichever mode of payment that I'll pay digitally, and I pay. That one goes straight to sit into the government revenue pot. You know, it can still be with the ministry, but the government can see it. I mean, the GRA or even the mother ministry can see it in real time. And so we are going to avoid a lot of these loopholes. And so that is the purpose for this portal. And I'm sure it's going to help a lot. All those leakages that we've been experiencing, money being diverted somewhere, people going to do this manual account, all these things will stop with the launch of this portal.
Great. Wonderful. Let me go to Paul now. Paul, we expecting to generate 1.5 billion Ghana cedis from the grant space, from grants in the 2021 budget. Looking at how COVID is hitting some of these countries, even though 2020 we targeted 1.2 billion, we didn't get that. 2021 we've moved up by almost 3 billion Ghana cedis, 300 million Ghana cedis. We're targeting 1.5 billion Ghana cedis from grants. Are we likely to get these returns? All right. So Paul, wait, hold on, please. I think my colleague is on the line. Hold on, please, Paul. I will get back to you. My colleague, Sunny, is on the line from Parliament. Sunny, you are welcome. Hello, Sunny. Hello, Sunny.
He's just come in, so go back and check.
Hello. All right, I think we find it difficult to get to Sunny in Parliament. So let me switch to Paul again. Paul, I was asking about grants. We projected to receive 1.5 billion Ghana cedis from grants. And 2020 we did 1.2 billion, and this year we scaled up to about 300 million more. Looking at how COVID and vaccine chain disruption that is happening all over the world, are we likely to get these receivables or these monies?
Yeah, with the current situation that the global world is facing, what we must realize is that just as we are facing revenue limitations, the developed world are also experiencing revenue limitations, and they have even spent more in terms of giving free transfers to their vulnerable population. So we cannot put our hope on grants. And even our president is telling us that we should aim to live beyond aid. So clearly what that means is that we shouldn't budget on grants and aid from the developed world. What we must do is to look within and try and see how we can make use of our own resources to be able to address our needs and meet our concerns as a country. Just as my brother was saying, with the government portal, which is a central,
thank you, Edward. We are coming to you live from Parliament
House here. Paul, hold on for a while. Hold on, please.
Yes, Edward, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you, Abdul, from Parliament. Yes. What is happening at the moment in the House?
Yes, Edward, can you hear me? I can hear you clearly.
Yeah, I can hear you too. Go ahead, please.
Yes, we are broadcasting live from Parliament House, where Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta will be presenting the Media Budget 2021. As I speak to you now, the minister is yet to arrive here to present the government statements, but MPs have arrived. A lot of ministers from both sides of the House. We are not on.
Oh, you're on, Abdul. I'm listening. Go ahead. Hello, I can hear you, Abdul. Hello. You are on. Please go ahead. I can hear you. You were talking about MPs have arrived from both sides of the House. I think we're having a challenge with the audio. We're still, we'll switch back to Abdul very soon. But let me come to you, Paul. Paul, we're looking at the grant aspect of it, and you're talking about Ghana Beyond Aid. You're talking about Ghana Beyond Aid, which has been one of the issues that's been pushed forward by the government of President Akufo-Addo to make sure that we don't rely so much on grants and aid, but we're able to raise our own resources to push our economic growth. Paul, are you with me? Hello? Hello, Paul? All right, we'll go for a short break. When we come back, we'll connect to Abdul Rahman Sani in Parliament, and then we'll get back to our panel, Paul and Habib.
Azamati winning the heat easily, 999, but you gotta wait.
GTV Sports Plus is the official.
News coverage of the 2021 media budget review and supplementary budget. We have our colleague Abdul Rahman Sani on the line from Parliament. Sani, you're welcome. Hello, Sani. All right. Let me switch to my panel. That is Paul and then Habib. Paul, you're talking about the Ghana Beyond Aid agenda, and then we switch to Parliament. We seem to be having a challenge. Paul, so let's go ahead. Hello, Paul.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Please go ahead.
Yes. Like I was saying, the experience from the past has taught us that we cannot continue relying on grants and aid from the developed world. Clearly, with the current situation, it is expected that we will not be able to meet the target with respect to grants. And I think that reliance on grants or over-reliance on grants has even led to a halt in some projects in the past. We can talk of a beautiful project or innovative and inclusive project like the free maternal health care, with which we had grants from the government of Netherlands. Now we had to abandon that project in the course of time because that grant stopped coming. Going forward, what I expect that we do is to plan our projects and programs based on the resources that we have. As much as possible, try to increase government revenues by using innovative means to generate more taxes. And then plan our program based on these resources so that if any grant comes in, that will be an unexpected windfall, which can then help us to be the icing on the cake and not rely on the grants as the main source of revenues to finance our core projects as a country.
Great. Now let me come to Habib. Habib, great.
Yes.
The Bank of Ghana launched the gold purchasing program or scheme this year, as way back in June, early June. We lost a lot of money, according to the Auditor General's report, about $5 billion in 2017. That's 2016, 2017 to some, let me say, fraudulent activities in that field. How can that move by the Bank of Ghana help in helping government getting the needed resources, and at the same time also monitor what comes out of our gold and mineral sector?
Yes, I think it's a very good initiative, and that was even long overdue. The issue is that if we leave certain sectors unregulated or unmonitored, that is the result that you get. You remember the visit of I think it was the Vice President to Dubai, and they were thanking him in Ghana for having imported over 7 billion worth of gold from Ghana. Meanwhile, in our official record, only 2 billion was captured. And so that is a result of unregulated, when we don't regulate certain sectors carefully. And so with this initiative, what is likely to happen is that, I'm not sure about the details, but is that there's going to be a platform where people can purchase those gold directly. And that will come through the formal sector and can be monitored properly. Because in the past, and even till now, people just go to where the mining areas and just buy the gold by the roadside and come and find a way of getting it outside the country. And so would that it being monitored? But with this policy or this initiative, I'm sure all that will be put into the formal sector. Everything can be traced from where the gold is produced all the way to when it is leaving the country. I think that's the best way that we can solve this, because there are a lot of issues that have come out in this sector. Even currently, there is still a case that I'm pursuing at the CID office because of certain fraud that was done by some people in Ghana against some other people in Dubai and other places. So, and the report came to us, and then we have to pursue it. So there are a lot of them. As we travel in the past before the COVID, wherever we went, the embassies, these were some of their issues. There are people come to complain to them that they have been defrauded of certain amount of money for purchase of gold. But with this new policy, I'm sure that will stop all this and also put And our reputation is at stake. Because when you go out there and you hear stories like this, it doesn't make you happy, because government is doing a lot of things to make sure that Ghana become the most attractive destination for investment. And in recent time, we're able to overtake Nigeria as the best in terms of the FDI, the foreign direct investment inflows in West Africa. And so we don't want to lose that. And so if you don't regulate these sectors to ensure that people have confidence in your economy, then all the effort that you are putting in will result for nothing for you. So I think that is how to manage that sector.
All right, let me come to you, Paul. Paul, again, still in the gold sector, I mean the mineral sector, you realize that government move to clamp down illegal mining, which we refer to as galamsey, in a way will reduce production of gold. Ghana, we are seated at the top in terms of gold producing countries in Africa. And with that move, how would that also affect revenue that is expected? Because according to the World Bank, 49% of revenue that is generated from the gold, the mineral sector, reference to gold, comes from the artisanal miners.
Yeah, of course, in the short term, it is expected that the ban on galamsey will have impacts on outputs, even in terms of the indirect effects, because when you go to these areas where people engage in galamsey, they also spend into the local economy, which spark of a lot of economic activities, and thereby help to drive the informal sector in these areas. But the question is, at what cost? We might just be focusing on the revenues that will be coming in, but in the long term, what will be the adverse effects on the economy? Indeed, I think that if we want to focus on the environmental and social effects of these activities, the returns to the country would be negative. The last time when I was flying from Nigeria to Abidjan, when I go to the western region and I look down upon our rivers, in fact, I felt very sad in the plane because all our rivers are turning into muddy something. And that is not too good for posterity or future generations. We are destroying our water bodies, and water is the source of life. Our trees are a source of life. So if you are destroying our trees, if we are polluting our water bodies at the expense of a slight increase in outputs in a given year or within a short period of time, in the long time, the consequences may be very serious and adverse on the economy. So I think government must strengthen its monitoring in terms of making sure that people are not engaging in galamsey. We're able to stamp it out completely and regulate small-scale mining to make sure that even if we are doing it being mindful of the environmental and social effects. And with the environmental effects, for instance, making sure that we are not polluting our water bodies and we are not also destroying our forest areas, which I think will help to at least add up to outputs whilst minimizing the environmental or adverse effects of mining.
Great. Now let's turn our attention to the National Development Bank that is expected to come on stream second half of this year. We got about 250 million euros from the European Investment Bank recently. The World Bank is also topping up at about 200 million Ghana cedis. How important is this in growing this economy, revamping this COVID hit economy? Habib?
Yes, I think that this is a very important initiative that has been taken by the government, and it is important for the economy because, you see, we run an economy that we don't have long-term funding for industries, because most of the time, because of the high default rate in Ghana in the banking sector, all the banks are looking for, they will offer you short-term loans. Nobody wants to offer you long-term. I know for industry to thrive, they need to have very lower interest rate for loans that also take at least 5 to 10 years. But in Ghana, we don't have that. And so everything that we are doing in industry, it is within the short-term period. And so with the establishment of this development bank, that is what is going to happen now. The development bank will lend to our banking sector at a certain reduced rate that they can also unload to the retail market, that to the industries and other, at a very, because I'm sure they'll be targeted. It is supposed to be maybe they'll target certain industries that those funds will go. And for instance, and one of the things that I want a development bank to do is to look at guarantees for the construction industry. One of the major problem of our banking sector is the construction industry. And the reason is that sometimes they take the loans to go and do this project, and it takes 2 to 3 years before they get payment. You cannot run an economy like that. But if we have a certain measures where you can put in certain guarantees for that sector, and government will put in that guarantee and say, look, for this contract that we are awarding, we want you to finish it within this time period. We are giving you the guarantee to ensure that once you're able to finish it within this period, you get paid. And based on that, the banks will be happy to lend at a much more reduced interest rate than what is currently prevailing. And so once they are sure of getting payment within a certain time frame, they will reduce their rates. But because of the uncertainties in the sector and uncertainties for when those payments will come, nobody wants to take a long-term lend on a long-term basis, and that is the bane of this economy. So it is my hope that with the coming in of this development bank, we're able to fill that side of the economy that has affected us for all this while. So that's my comment on that.
Paul, what is your take with regard to the development bank?
Yeah, thank you. For some time now, the government has relied on the universal banks or commercial banks to provide funding for certain critical sectors of the economy that require long-term, patient, low interest rates. In an economy where you have more than 80% of businesses being in the informal sector, while it is very risky to give credit to this sector, and that is how come over the years, Bank of Ghana has made the attempt to reduce the policy rates as a way of encouraging banks to give more credit to the private sector. But demand for credits or credit allocated to the private sector has not responded, because banks are always focusing on the formal sector and salaried workers who have ready earnings to be able to service these loans. So the coming on board of the development bank, I think, is timely, especially in this time where most of our MSMEs are suffering from the adverse impacts of the COVID-19. Wanted to help to be able to give the kind of long-term, low-interest patient loans that are needed by the small and medium-scale enterprises for them to be able to grow. They need long-term capital to be able to invest to grow their capacity so they can grow over time. Let's say 5 years, 10 years, and then they can begin to pay back. One, we are also talking about credit to the agri sector, which is also very crucial to the economy in terms of enhancing food security and making sure that we lift the masses out of poverty, focusing on our smallholder farmers, for instance. Traditional banks are not willing to give loans to these farmers. One, because their output is not guaranteed. You may give a loan to the farmer. If the rains do not fall, he comes back telling you stories. No bank is ready to do that. When shareholders are waiting for their returns in terms of dividends. Now, with the development bank, it has social goals. It has environmental goals. So one way of, or one of the social goals is to reduce poverty. So I'm sure we'll be able to invest in the agriculture sector, targeting smallholder farmers, organizing them into farmer cooperatives at the local area, so that through the farmer cooperatives, you can channel resources to the farmers. Now, one other way is to also enhance investments in the SDG-related areas. By 2030, we are expected to meet most of the 17 SDG goals. And one of the areas, green energy, for instance, traditional banks have not been able to invest enough in that area. And I think that is one area where the development bank can help to scale up investments in solar panels and also in wind energy development. In terms of cooking energy, I think it's about time we begin to also explore solar stoves for cooking in our rural areas so that we can reduce the pressure in terms of firewood, cutting down trees for firewood and charcoal in our rural areas. That will help to preserve our forest areas, whilst also enhancing the cleanness of the fuel that we use, because the burning of this firewood also has adverse health effects. on our people in the rural areas. So, I think the Development Bank is timely, and government should be able to even add more to what we have received from the World Bank and the IMF to be able to target critical sectors of the economy in order to lift the mass out of poverty, enhance outputs, and also generate more revenues in the medium to long term in terms of taxes.
Great. Habib, now one issue that is worth looking at is the performance of the cedi. The cedi did 0.6%. I mean, it dipped against the dollar, and the pound sterling, it also went down about almost 2%. So what going forward, which is the time that we've seen that this second half of the year, this is the time we do a lot of importation. What should be done by the Bank of Ghana to make sure that cedi doesn't lose its value as quickly as we've been seeing over the years?
Yeah, I think what the Bank of Ghana should be doing is to continue to do what it is doing currently that has resulted in the very marginal depreciation of the cedi, because it comes in to intervene in the market as and when it is necessary. And well, fortunately to the COVID has also dampened our import bills. We haven't been able to import or we've not been importing we have also developed our local capacity to fill the gap of some of the import that we have been doing. But because of the current challenges of COVID and the slowdown of the global supply chain, we'll be importing less. And so now that the economy is recovering and we are likely to open up, we're going to have a lot of imports coming in. And that means that there'll be high demand for the convertible currencies, so that for people to import certain goods from the various countries. So I think what the Bank of Ghana has been doing over the few years has been to build up our reserves. I think currently it's over 11 billion now. So that's one way of trying to prepare ahead of the storm. So that when the economy opens up and then the demand for the dollars becomes high, at least our reserves will be able to intervene somehow to lessen the burden. And until we change the structure of our economy into an export base, we're likely to have these challenges. And one of the major issues that is worrying us with our cedi is the interest servicing of our loans, especially the foreign denominated loans, because that is where we have a lot of challenges. Because this year, for instance, since 2017, we've moved in terms of interest servicing alone from 11 billion to getting to almost about 24 billion this year. And over close to 60% of our loans is foreign based. That's external debt. And therefore, we would require a lot of forex to be able to service those debts, those interests. And that is where the demand for the forex becomes very high. Over the last 3 years before COVID, we were having surplus in terms of our trade, because we're doing more export than we're doing import. But because of the current account, because of the servicing of our debt, we were always, because naturally if you are doing more export than import, you require less dollars. But because of the servicing of our interest with the external debt or the service of the external interest on our debt, that is what creates the problem for us. And therefore, these are the things that the Bank of Ghana, the managers of the BOG, we should also be looking at negotiating with some of our multinational companies in terms of the repatriation of their profits. If we can figure it a bit at different times, you shouldn't do it in bulk. Usually, within the first quarter to the early part of the second quarter, you see a lot of outflows from those multinational companies. And that's when the cedi hitters, it gets depreciated more. And so Bank of Ghana should be looking at engaging them and finding a way of asking them to stagger the way they repatriate their profit, so that will help manage the cedi. So far, we've done well. If you look at our history and what we have done in recent times, I think both the government and then the BOG need to be commended for what they have done, especially in terms of the city.
Paul, you were earlier leading to talking about the Sustainable Development Goals, and this year the Finance Minister hinted we're going to issue a green bond. How important is this bond in driving at renewables and investing in green projects?
Okay, thank you very much. Now, with the Sustainable Development Goals, we need financing to be able to spearhead our progress towards the goals. Talking of poverty reduction, for instance. Now, if you look at Ghana's economy, most of the poor people are in the agricultural sector and in the informal sector. And these are the sectors where traditional funding is not finding its way into. Banks are reluctant to give loans to the agricultural sector and also to the informal sector. So if we are going to rely on the traditional banking system, what it means is that our progress to the SDGs by 2030 may not be encouraging. So the coming on board of the Development Bank, I think, will help to drive investments in the agricultural sector and also into our MSMEs. Then looking at SDG Goal 7, access to clean energy and its affordability. That is also one area where I think the Development Bank or the issuance of the green bonds can help to be able to invest more in that sector. Now, banks
Paul, hold on,
not
please. Sorry,
much.
Paul, hold on. I'll come back to you. I'm very interested in the green renewable energy sector. I have Sunny, my colleague from Parliament, on the line. Sunny, you're welcome. Hello, Sunny. Hello. Well, we seem to be having still challenges with Sunny, connecting to Sunny from Parliament. Let me go back to Paul. Paul, so we're talking about the Sustainable Development Goals and we're talking about green financing. Go ahead, please.
Sure. So talking about SDG Goal 7, for instance, increasing access to clean energy and renewable energy. I mean, it's one area where most of our banks are not investing in because it's a new area where the risk could also be high because we don't know the extent to which green energy can be commercialized in Ghana. If we produce it, will it be cheaper than the mainstream energy that we have now from fossil fuels? So that's the question that banks are pondering on, for which reason most banks may not be able to invest in that area. Recently, as part of my PhD, I happened to interview some of the banks, the sustainability desks of some of the banks, and it happened that Car Bank and some of the few banks that are investing in that sector are getting funding from international development banks. So they get funds that are directly meant for that sector. Banks that do not have such funding are not using funds they have collected from their depositors to invest in that sector. So I think the issuance of the green bond, if we are able to target it to the development of green energy, because that is the future, to be able to reduce emissions and to be able to address climate change, the implications of climate change from our energy generation. Recently, now, as it stands now, if you look at our energy generation mix, about 50% is from fossil fuels, which contributes greatly to carbon emissions and emissions of other poisonous gases, which reduce the ozone layer and contribute to the issue of climate change. So I think if we are able to invest in that, to be able to reduce the share of fossil fuels in our energy mix, we will be able to minimize carbon emissions from energy generation. And then I also spoke about household cooking energy. I think that is also one area where we can also invest in, identify potential entrepreneurs, resource them to be able to develop solar-based stoves and make them available to our rural communities and even in our urban centers at a very cheaper cost in order to minimize the use of biomass, that is charcoal and firewood that we burn for cooking energy in our rural areas. Now, that has implications on our forest reserves.
Thank you very much.
Has implications for health of
Paul, I'll come back to you. I'll come back to you about. Now, I think we get Sunny now. Sunny. Hello, Sunny. Hello. Hello, Sunny.
Yes, sir.
Sunny.
Hello?
Hello, Sunny. Hello. Wow, we've lost him again. We let's continue with the issue about the green bond. Now let me switch to Habib. Habib, the finance minister hinted that hopefully November this year, Ghana will issue green and social bond, making us the first country in Africa to venture into this space. How crucial is this move by the government?
Yes, I think it's an innovation, and I think if you remember, Ghana was the first in the sub-Saharan Africa to go to the international bond market, and so we are always setting the pace. And so it is also a very good initiative of the finance minister or the government in particular. And you know, like my colleague was saying, in Europe and other places, there are a lot of idle funds which are tagged to certain key development areas. You understand? So there are funds that are probably meant for green energy for that sector. But if you don't go out to issue or to make such proposal, those monies you won't be able to attract those monies. There are people who have dedicated their money for certain specific key areas in any economy, whether in Africa and so one of them is the green energy area. That sector. So once you go out to issue such a bond, you're going to attract a lot of funds coming in, because now in recent times with our recent experiences in the floods and the bushfires in Europe and America, people are now beginning to take the issue of the environment very seriously, and every country is now coming back. Those who are against it, like Mr. Trump, China and other places who are against working towards limiting the greenhouse effect, are now coming back to the table, and everybody is getting serious now. And so we're going to have a lot of funding opportunities for that area. And so if government can begin to work on that, to look at domestically which areas that we need to invest in, the green area. Now we look at our river bodies, look at our forests. We have depleted most of our forest reserves. When our waters are now turning into muddy waters, these are all challenges of the environment, for which there are dedicated funds that are meant to be able to overturn such crisis. So it is a very good area to go, and I hope that when we go out there, we're able to raise the needed funds to be able to come and solve some of this thing. So the government, as of now, should start to begin to work on the proposal. What kind of proposal, what kind of message is it going to take out? Is it going to take out to the international community, those who are coming in to invest in that bond?
All right, thank you very much, Habib, for your time. We thank you very much, Habib Adam, and then Paul Apia Konedu for this time with you, looking at the 2021 media budget review that is yet to be presented by the finance minister. We pause here, and then we go straight to Parliament. After the presentation, we'll come back to you for some analysis. Thank you. My name is Edward Nyaku. We'll be back.
It's Azamati winning the heat easily. 9-9.